Hey guys, tonight we're going to whisper our way into one of the oldest problems in human history: how to fall asleep. You might think sleepless nights are a modern curse, something invented by electric lights, smartphone screens, or that regrettable third espresso. But no, tonight you're in ancient Sumer. The world's first cities are only just sprouting from the Mesopotamian plain, and even here under the stars, someone is tossing and turning. You're lying on a clay brick rooftop somewhere in Uruk. It's warm from the sun that scorched it all day, and the smell of baked dust clings to everything. The Euphrates hums in the distance like a lullaby half remembered. Someone nearby is snoring, probably your neighbor, whose donkey you can hear wheezing in its sleep too. But not you. You're awake. Again. You roll onto your side, the rough reed mat beneath you, pressing faint grid lines into your skin. Overhead, the sky is enormous. No city lights to blot out the stars, just a spray of ancient constellations. The same ones Babylonian astronomers will one day catalog and assign names to. But for now, they're just friendly flickers in the dark. You close your eyes, try again. Nothing. And here's where it begins. You start to count. Not stars. Sheep. You're not alone in this. Counting sheep might sound like a modern joke, but in Sumer, it was a nightly reality. Shepherds did it by necessity. Priests did it as record-keeping. Even scribes like you were trained in tallying flocks by moonlight, just in case you ever had to take inventory in a dream. Sleep was both private and sacred, but also functional. Losing it could be a sign from the gods, or it could just mean someone left the temple torch burning too long. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're still with me, leave a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always kind of soothing to know we're all trying to drift off together in different corners of the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your body shifts again. You glance over the rooftop ledge. Down below the city is quiet, well, mostly. A few torches still flicker. Somewhere a dog barks once, then goes silent. You can hear the hush of cloth as someone draws a curtain shut. The moon rises a little higher, casting a pale glow over the mud brick walls, and you begin again. 1 sheep, 2 sheep, 3 sheep. Except you're not imagining them leaping fences. That wouldn't make sense in Sumer. You picture them walking in a slow, dignified line through a reed gate near the temple compound. They're marked with small daubs of red dye on their backs, symbols of ownership offerings, or simply a primitive kind of label. You're counting them into your memory, into a ledger you carry behind your eyes. Historians still argue whether counting sheep for sleep had a formal origin here, or whether it was more metaphorical, but it's no stretch to think that shepherds standing under this very same sky once muttered tallies to stay alert or stave off boredom, or maybe like you to drift off. The base 60 number system, which will later define Sumerian math calendar time, and even our modern minutes and seconds, began with these everyday acts of enumeration. Livestock had to be counted for trade tax and sacrifice. Clay tokens were scratched with impressions. And sometimes, if a scribe was too sleepy, he might just keep count in his head. Tonight you imagine that scribe is you, still awake, still counting. The scent of sesame oil lingers in the air. From the lamp someone extinguished a few moments ago, somewhere nearby you hear a rustle of sheep stirring. Probably not. More likely a rat. But that's fine. It's Sumer. Rats and humans are just neighbors here. You scratch your arm. The night breeze picks up a little, lifting the edge of your linen tunic. You tug it back down and resume your count. 4 sheep, 5 sheep, 6 sheep. You wonder if the sheep themselves ever have trouble sleeping. Probably not. Their lives are simple: eat, walk, avoid being sacrificed. You envy them a little. And then your mind drifts, not off to sleep yet, but into the soft imaginings that come just before it. What would happen if you lost count? What if a sheep snuck past you twice? Would the gods be offended? Would your dream flock wander away into the reeds? You shake your head. No, you're a good scribe. You know your numerals. You even practiced etching a small stylized lamb earlier this afternoon, copying from the master tablet. Your clay slab still sits near the temple kiln drying. It has the faintest impression of a hoof in the corner your master's joke. 7 sheep, 8 sheep. Somewhere deep in the night, a jar tips over. Someone curses softly, then silence again. You close your eyes, try once more, and slowly, very slowly, you feel the numbers stretch. The sheep grow more abstract. You don't see their faces anymore, just their forms. Like they're turning into math, turning into sleep. The city of Uruk doesn't sleep all at once. You're beginning to learn that. Some corners hush early, those near the temples, or the potter's quarter, where the kilns need to rest. Others stay lively well into the night, especially near the outer grain markets. You hear laughter now and then, echoing across the rooftops too far away to reach you, but close enough to remind you that not everyone counts sheep to sleep. You roll onto your back again, eyes following the glint of moonlight across the bricks. From this rooftop, you can see the top of the Great Ziggurat, a layered mountain of mud brick and mystery. Its tiers shimmer faintly under the night sky, as if the structure itself is holding a silent vigil. You wonder if the high priest is awake too. Probably. Too many records to organize, too many omens to read. Even gods you imagine must suffer insomnia sometimes. Down below, there's a flicker of movement, a donkey being led slowly through an alley, its hooves muffled on the packed clay. You imagine the man walking beside it is a baker rising early to start his dough, or maybe a night watchman muttering softly to keep the shadows away. You stretch and sit up, elbows on your knees, the rooftop air pressing gently against your skin. You're not alone in your wakefulness, even if it feels that way. Ancient Sumerians developed rituals around bedtime, and you, like any good citizen, follow the steps, anoint your feet with sesame oil, murmur a blessing to Nana the moon god, and align your mat so your head faces the temple. But sometimes even perfect rituals fail. Historians still argue whether these routines were spiritual or simply habit, whether the nightly oilings were offerings to divine comfort or just early skincare. Either way, they give shape to sleeplessness, and shape right now is comforting. The night air smells like damp earth and warm linen. Somewhere nearby, someone is grinding something, maybe barley, maybe clay pigment. You can hear the rhythmic stone against stone motion. It sounds like the city breathing. You remember something your teacher once said, scratching a cuneiform glyph into a wet slab? The night is for listening. That's why the gods speak then. You didn't believe it at the time, but here now, that quiet hum of the world feels almost sacred. Not silence, just stillness. You lie back down and listen. The roof bricks beneath you are smooth in some places, jagged in others. Someone's carved a little pattern near where your hand rests, 3 dots and a curved line. Maybe it's graffiti. Maybe it's a forgotten number. You trace it with your fingertip anyway, letting your mind drift. 1 sheep, 2 sheep. The counting returns naturally, like a tide. And this time it brings images with it, not just numbers. You picture the city's western gate where the flocks are brought in each morning. Sheep bleat and jostle, and young boys with sticks usher them through dusty streets. You imagine being one of those boys, barefoot, shirtless, hair full of straw, and for a moment you are. You squint against the sun, counting each sheep aloud as they pass beneath the lintel. 12, 13, 14. You lose count. A sheep sneezes and the moment breaks. Back on the rooftop, you sigh and turn on your side again. In Sumer, everything is counted. Sheep, barley, slaves, bricks, even dreams. The temple archivists keep dream records etched on thin clay tablets categorized by subject. Dream of rain, dream of fire, dream of a 3-headed goat. You once copied one for practice. It involved a crocodile speaking in perfect Sumerian. No one knows what it meant. Scholars today still debate whether the dream tablets were genuine beliefs or literary exercises. You like to think they were both. The roof creaks under your shifting weight. Below, someone whistles once, then again, a signal maybe, or just a habit. You find yourself breathing in time with the pause between whistles. 15 sheep, 16. You imagine one of the sheep has a bell, an old brass bell from the edge of Elam. It jingles softly, and now you can hear it every few counts, a little offbeat, a little sleepy. 17. Bell. 18. The wind carries in the scent of fish from the river, stale but oddly calming. You realize it's almost dawn. The sky is turning paler near the east, and the stars are beginning to fade. You close your eyes again. There's still time to count. You wake, or maybe you never truly slept. It's hard to tell. The sky has shifted slightly lighter now, tinged with the soft lavender hue that comes just before the sun. The air still smells of night, but now it carries a hint of bread baking far below. Someone's fire is already going. You sit up, your joints a little stiff from the bricks beneath you. A bowl of water rests nearby, its surface smooth like glass. You splash a bit on your face, and the cold jolts you, not unpleasant, just grounding. Even sleep-deprived Sumerians needed to start the day with a wash. But you don't go downstairs yet. You linger. Something about this rooftop this early hour makes you want to stay suspended between wakefulness and sleep a little longer. As you lie back down, the counting returns, unbidden, soft-soothing. 19, 20, 21. You begin to focus on the sheep more clearly now, not just their number, but their details. Coarse wool curling horns, black hooves tapping against dry clay. In your imagination, they move in a gentle arc around you, single file, nodding slightly as they pass. You can almost feel the brush of their fleece against your legs. It's not just sleep you're chasing, it's quiet. The kind that doesn't exist during temple hours or scribe lessons or mid-afternoon market noise. This is a deeper quiet one you can count. One that answers back. You think of the temple's counting rooms, simple spaces with low benches and piles of tiny clay tokens. Each token represented something: a goat, a measure of oil, a jar of dates. This was how inventory worked before writing. Just lumps of meaning. People didn't write about sheep because they liked them. They wrote about sheep because they were everywhere. In the fields and the feasts and the taxes. And yes, even in your dreams. Historians still argue whether the token system was purely administrative or if it held ritual significance. Some suggest priests would bless the tokens before tallying them, as if to protect the future goods they represented. Others say that's wishful thinking, a romantic gloss on what was probably a lot of very boring math. Still, even boring math can become poetic at 4 a.m. You trace numbers on your palm. In base 60, of course, Sumerians loved their 60s. 60 was the perfect number, divisible by almost anything. You're not quite sure why that matters, but you like how it feels in your mouth. Shu, 60, Aesh, 90, Jesh, 180. Round and old. You scratch the back of your neck. Another sheep approaches this one a little slower, perhaps older. You decide to name it Drowsy. You imagine it yawns as it passes you, tongue out, ears flopping. You stifle a laugh. 22, Drowsy, 23. You remember your older brother now, far away in Kish, once told you about a shepherd who swore by his sheep's bedtime patterns. They know when it's time, he said, better than any priest. The idea stuck with you. Maybe the sheep know something you don't. Maybe they're already asleep and you're just watching their dreams. You lie still. The rooftop is warming beneath you, not by much but enough to notice. The kind of warmth that seeps into bones slowly, like kindness. Below, a door creaks open. A woman hums to herself as she begins her morning chores. You listen, his eyes half shut. 24, 25, a small bleat in the distance. 26. You picture your sheep now approaching a narrow reed bridge over a canal. They cross one by one, hooves careful on the damp fibers. The canal reflects the sky like polished obsidian. It's all imaginary, but vivid, more vivid than most dreams. You wonder what it says about your mind that you're designing infrastructure for fantasy sheep. One bleats in protest. Maybe it's afraid of the water. You pause your count, reassure it silently, and it crosses. 27. There's a comfort in it, this game, this ritual. It requires just enough concentration to keep the restless thoughts away, but not so much that it wakes you. The balance is delicate, like temple scales measuring copper dust. Just enough weight to press you down gently like a hand on your chest saying, rest now. 28, 29, you don't know if you'll make it to 60 before sleep comes again. You kinda hope you won't. But for now, your eyes stay open. Barely. Your eyes flutter open, then close again. This time, you're not sure if you're drifting or dreaming, but either way, it's soft, blurred, like the air has thickened into wool itself. You're no longer on the rooftop exactly, not in the way you were before. You're somewhere between the sky and the ziggurat, wrapped in the idea of sleep, even if it hasn't quite arrived. A familiar sound, chalky rhythmic, pulls your attention. You recognize it at once, the scratch of a reed stylus on clay. Someone's writing nearby. You don't remember inviting anyone onto your rooftop, but maybe that doesn't matter anymore. The sound is comforting. The scribe presses symbols into a tablet with practiced ease, barely glancing at what he's written. You imagine it's a sleep tally, a record of how many dreams you've passed through tonight. Or perhaps he's logging sheep. Again, 30, 31, 32. You think about how counting itself became sacred here, not just useful sacred. The priests and officials who counted the city's flocks were trusted with the rhythms of economy, worship, and life. A miscount wasn't just embarrassing, it could spark confusion across an entire temple district. Some scholars even suggest that Sumerian words for truth and account were nearly interchangeable. To count correctly was to honor the gods. To lose count was, well, human. Historians still debate whether these ancient scribes saw numbers as neutral tools or as something closer to divine speech. After all, the gods used numbers too: lunar cycles, festival days, sacrifice ratios. Everything had its place in the ledger of the divine, even you. You roll onto your side. The bricks beneath you are warm now. The morning's on its way and your body knows it. But you resist. Just a little longer here. One more sheep. Maybe two. The stylus stops. You picture the scribe, perhaps just a figment of your half-sleep, resting his hand. He leans back satisfied. Maybe he's finished your dream's record. You glance toward the horizon. The sky's changed again. Now, pale gold rims the edges of the world, and birds have begun to call raspy, half-asleep chirps that seem more annoyed than cheerful. You remember the temple rooster, not the animal, the man. Every morning, long before anyone wants him to, he sings loudly from the outer courtyard to rouse the priests. His voice is legendary, mostly because it's terrible, but it works. People joke that if you're not up before he starts, you'll wish you had been. You haven't heard him yet. Good. You sigh and refocus. 33, 34. Another sheep hesitates. This one is woollier than the others, almost absurdly so. You imagine it struggling to fit through the narrow reed gate. It gets stuck, backs up, tries again. Its hooves slip. You snort quietly. Even in your imagination, clumsy sheep exist. 35, 36. You wonder what dreams sheep have. Do they count humans? Do they float in pastures of golden straw, free of fences and barking dogs? Or do they too experience restless nights, wondering when dawn will come? Below you hear the distinct thud of a pot hitting the ground, followed by a whispered curse. Someone's dropped breakfast. You send them a silent condolence, then smile into your blanket. The Sumerians had lullabies. Did you know that little clay tablets with simple lyrics meant to soothe babies or maybe anxious adults pretending to be asleep? One fragment survives. It mentions a lamb, a soft reed basket, and the quiet rustle of wind through date palms. You like the image. You tuck it into your count. 37, basket, 38. Your mind drifts to the temple sheep pens. You've seen them in the daylight, low wooden fences, a few thatched shelters, the smell of straw and damp fur. But what are they like at night? Do the sheep bunch together for warmth? Do the priests hum to them? You imagine sneaking in, curling up against one of them, feeling its breath rise and fall beside you. A living pillow, warm and indifferent. 39, 40. You're getting slower now, not because the sheep are harder to picture, but because the counting has grown thick, syrupy. Each number takes longer to arrive. You forget where you are, then remember again. Then forget once more. The stylus begins again. Scratch, scratch. The scribe is back. This time he's etching a number you don't recognize. Maybe it's not even a number. Maybe it's the Sumerian word for almost asleep. You don't ask, you just listen. By dawn, the sky has changed again now, fully soft, brushed with streaks of dusty rose and pale gold. You blink slowly at the horizon, where the ziggurat still looms, now less mysterious and more architectural. The kind of thing you can almost imagine being built stone by stone, brick by hands like yours. Or nearly like yours. The rooftop beneath you holds the last of the night's coolness, but soon it will heat up, radiating the sun's return. You stretch your arms, still sore from yesterday's bucket relay, hauling water from the temple cistern to the kitchen storeroom. Your palms are rough, your legs ache, but your mind, still fuzzy with half dreams and the feeling of counting. The sheep have faded into abstraction again. You see the numbers more than the animals now. A line of soft syllables drifting by. 41, 42, 43. You squint up at the highest tier of the temple and notice something peculiar, 3 white shapes glowing faintly. At first you think they're doves. Then you remember ostrich eggs. They've been there your whole life, perched on the peaks of the minarets like 3 strange moons. Offerings, symbols of fertility perhaps, or just ancient decorations no one dares move. Historians still argue whether the ostrich eggs were meant to reflect moonlight, or simply ward off demons. You prefer the moonlight theory, it's more romantic. Someone in the courtyard below is already sweeping. You can hear the soft whisk of straw on stone, The rhythm is hypnotic. You close your eyes again, just for a little longer. The town is beginning to stir. You hear the uneven clop of donkey hooves, the distant call of a market vendor testing his voice. Fresh fish, fresh dates, no worms. This time he always adds the last part like a punchline. You smile without opening your eyes, and then comes something different. Music. Not loud, not showy. Just a pair of balafon players seated beneath a neem tree outside the scribe school. Their wooden mallets tap out a lazy rhythm, and the sound makes your chest feel like it's purring. Each note lands with a dusty softness, bouncing lightly between the buildings, echoing faintly against the ziggurat's broad face. You're not even sure how you hear it from this rooftop, but it's there, subtle like breath. You sit up and glance down over the ledge. The players look small from here, like figurines carved from old tamarind wood. One of them is swaying slightly with the music, his feet bear a piece of string tied around one big toe. The other is chewing something betel leaf, probably his lips stained red. They don't look tired, but you do. 44, 45. You lean your head back and close your eyes, letting the music guide your thoughts. It's not exactly a lullaby, but it has the same effect. It slows things down, helps you notice odd little details, like the way your linen tunic feels rougher on one shoulder than the other, or how the wind keeps returning to trace the same path across your cheek. And then softly you remember, the Monday market is today. In Sumerian cities, the markets were everything. Not just for trade, but for news gossip, matchmaking, and subtle public announcements. If someone had an extra goat, or needed a clay pot mended, or just wanted to hear a story, they went to the market. Today the square will be full. Merchants with jars of honey bolts of dyed linen, woven reed baskets, carved bone combs, all laid out on mats or carried in baskets. A cousin of yours might be selling onions. You made fun of his stall once he said onions sold better than gold, and you believe it now. The market starts slowly, but once it wakes up, it buzzes. And not just with buyers. Performers wander the crowd. Elderly storytellers set up low stools and offer long-winded epics in exchange for scraps of dried fruit. Once a man came dressed as a talking ox and told parables until sunset. You still remember the one about the ox who outsmarted a lazy fishmonger. That story ends with everyone asleep under a sycamore tree. You think of it now. 46, 47. You lie back down. The sun has touched the ziggurat now, its light sliding down each tier like a golden ribbon. In a few minutes, it will reach your rooftop, but not yet. You're still tucked in shadow, still half wrapped in your counting. You wonder what the sheep are doing. If they're reeled down in the pens, maybe they're waking up too, shaking out their wool, nudging one another, bleating for the first time in hours. Or maybe they never slept. Maybe they walked all night single file through your mind. The balafon rhythm shifts. A little slower now. You follow it. 48, 49. A breeze rolls across the rooftop. It smells faintly of roasted grain. The bakers have started their fires. You imagine their arms dusted in flour hands kneading dough in wide ceramic bowls. The same bread you'll eat later today, unless you sleep through breakfast. You smile. 50. Almost there. You blink at the edge of dawn, unsure whether you've slept at all or just hovered in that syrupy space between dreams and daylight. Your body is still, but your mind has been moving in slow circular loops round, as the moon round, as a sheep pen, round as the way your thoughts keep circling back to numbers. 51, 52. You breathe in deep. The rooftop is warming now. You can feel it beneath your spine, a gentle radiating heat that reminds you the day is arriving, whether you're ready or not. The city of Uruk stretches quietly beneath you, still draped in shadows, but blinking awake at the edges. Someone coughs, someone laughs, a baby cries. You close your eyes tighter, not out of frustration, but out of hope. You're almost there. You're so close to real sleep, you can hear the gentle woolen sighs of your imaginary flock. They've begun to loop back around again, restarting the circuit. The counting hasn't stopped. It's just softened. And in this strange half-sleep, you find yourself back on the ziggurat. Not climbing it, just standing at its base, staring up. The giant steps look endless, massive, but you notice something strange. Each stair has a number. Not Sumerian numbers, not cuneiform at all, just numbers. Plain ones, Western digits. Where did those come from? Your mind shrugs. You begin climbing slowly, one stair per sheep. 53, 54. With each step, the world gets quieter. Less market noise, less dawn, more breath, more heartbeat. You can feel your feet bare, of course, on the smooth-baked bricks. Someone painted them years ago, but the pigment has worn away, faded by time and footsteps and sun. A goat bleats from somewhere down below, confused and proud. You keep going. 55, 56. The sheep climb too behind you now, in single file as always, hooves ticking like drum beats. You glance back and recognize one, a spotted one you've imagined before. His name is Woolsey, and he has no idea he isn't real. This isn't sleep yet, but it's the path to it. You think about those who walked these steps for real. The temple priests' arms full of offerings, young initiates hauling jugs of oil, women carrying barley bread on wide flat trays. You once read that the king climbed this ziggurat only once a year to perform the sacred ritual of renewal. He would pray for the city's continued prosperity, for healthy flocks, and for, yes, peaceful sleep. Sleep, the forgotten part of civilization. Historians still argue what happened at the very top of the ziggurat. Some say it was an observatory for the stars. Others insist it was a marriage chamber for the king and a priestess enacting symbolic unions between humans and gods. But maybe someone also took naps up there. 57, 58. You reach the final stair. There is no door, no priest, no ceremony. Just a mat and a breeze in a ceramic jar half filled with sweet water. You sit, you breathe, and the sheep stop moving. They lie down, curling their legs beneath them, quiet as pillows. You imagine yourself lying down among them, the roof of the sky overhead, the heartbeat of the city far below, and numbers dissolving gently like sugar in warm milk. 59. One more. You pause just to feel it. 60. And the world exhales. Your body slackens slightly. A buzzing fades behind your ears. You're still on the rooftop, but it's no longer a rooftop. It's a field, a dream, a concept. You're not asleep, but you're not asleep. Not anymore. You're lying in that strange, slippery space where the mind lets go of time, but still notices the wind. Where the rooftop and the sheep and the numbers all blur together, stitched by the slow, steady pulse of your own breath. You don't need to count anymore, but the numbers linger anyway, gentle, patient, like friends who don't mind being ignored. Below, the streets are fully awake now, but up here, you're still wrapped in that wool-lined silence. The city hums beneath you, sandals on clay donkeys, snorting sellers calling out their wares. It's all muffled, as if someone's thrown a blanket over the world. The counting has faded into background rhythm, but your thoughts haven't. They wander now not in straight lines, but in curls and swirls. Like incense smoke, like the script you've been copying all week. You think of the cuneiform sign for sheep. You've carved it so many times it appears even when you close your eyes. A wedge for the head, 2 for the legs, more wedges branching off like ears. The Sumerians didn't draw sheep to look like sheep. They symbolized them, just like your mind does now. And maybe that's the secret. You're not counting sheep anymore. You're counting ideas of sheep. You're drifting with the symbols, now the records, the meanings that lived longer than the animals themselves. Scribes were memory keepers, not just of names or taxes, but of nights like these, of moments when numbers met sleep and formed dreams. You picture a young scribe like yourself, 2,000 years ago, sitting by lamplight with a cracked tablet. His stylus is worn. His eyes are red-rimmed. He should be asleep, but he's not. He's recording flock numbers for the temple ewes, rams, lambs. But as he writes, he begins to list imaginary sheep, ones that wear jewelry, ones that float, ones that whisper omens. Historians still argue whether some of these surreal entries were errors or jokes, or if they were early signs of storytelling, where the ledger became a lullaby and the temple became a dream factory. You like to think the priest read those records and just smiled. Let it go. Everyone needs a little softness in the margins. You shift on the rooftop, your tunic twisted under your hip. You adjust it lazily, eyes still closed, one hand resting on your chest. 61, 62. You didn't mean to keep counting, but the numbers return like the tide. This time they sound rounder, softer. You're not keeping track. You're just noticing. 63. The wind brushes your ankle. 64. A bee hovers near your ear, decides against it, and moves on. 65. You don't open your eyes. You don't need to. Everything you want to see is already inside. You drift toward another memory, not your own, maybe no one's. But it feels old. You're in a field now. Real this time, or as real as dreams get. A sun-baked plain dotted with goats and straw huts and slow clouds. A shepherd is reclining under a sycamore tree, chewing on a reed, eyes closed but not asleep. His flock is scattered lazily across the hill. No fences, no urgency, just wool and sky. He counts under his breath not out of necessity, but out of rhythm, because it soothes him, because he has nothing else to do, because his father did it, because the gods are listening. 66. You lie beside him. Neither of you speaks. The sun doesn't burn. It just hums. 67. You're back on the rooftop, but it's the same scene. The shepherd is gone, but his peace lingers. Your arms are loose now. Your jaw unclenched. The reed mat beneath you feels like water. You wonder if this is how the gods sleep, between symbols, among sheep, in the space where meaning dissolves. You smile slightly, though your face barely moves. 68, 69, almost there again. Not to an end, just to another beginning. 70. A soft exhale, yours, or the sheep's, or the city's. Doesn't matter. You are part of the count now. You wake briefly, but nothing urgent tugs at you. No alarm, no priestly summons, no scroll to copy. Just the warm weight of morning pressing against your limbs like a sun-warmed blanket. You don't sit up yet. You let yourself remain still, breathing in the soft scent of baked dust, sesame oil, and distant sheep. Your eyes are closed, but you know the world is gold now. You can feel it in the air, how it stretches across rooftops, slips into alleyways, dapples the ziggurat in halos of heat. The temple bells haven't rung yet, which means you still have a few moments. Minutes, maybe more. And so you return to the rhythm. You return to 71, 72. The counting is instinctual now. You no longer picture sheep in a line. You don't even picture them clearly. They're more like impressions, a faint curl of wool, the echo of a bleat, the feel of a small, warm body brushing past you. It's as if your memory has started doing the work for you, sending up dream-shaped sheep one after another. You think about sleep again, how people in Sumer might have explained it. There was no science then, no REM cycles or melatonin, but they understood sleep, revered it even. In their myths, dreams were messages sent by gods, filtered through the moonlight and translated in the stillness of night. You once heard a priest call sleep the nightly embassy of the heavens. You liked that. Historians still debate whether the Sumerians believed in one consistent dream realm, or many, the fields of Nana, the rivers of Utu, the blackened staircases of Ereshkigal. Each god had their own domain, and sometimes if your sleep was particularly deep, you might visit more than one. 73. You're drifting into one now. You find yourself in a long, low room filled with clay tablets, thousands of them stacked neatly in niches carved into the walls. The room smells of old ash and damp straw. A single lamp burns at the far end, casting long shadows across the floor. This is a dream archive. You walk slowly along the rows, fingertips grazing the etched surfaces. Each tablet is cool to the touch. Some are cracked, some are warped. Some shimmer faintly as if still alive with the dreams they record. You pause at one with a symbol you recognize, not a sheep, not a number, but the glyph for yawn. It's shaped like a wide mouth with little breath lines trailing off one side. You trace it smiling. Yes, even yawns were sacred here. 74. You open the tablet, or maybe it opens you. The scene shifts. You're now in a reed hut at the edge of the city. The air smells like damp earth and fresh goat's milk. A woman hums as she rocks a child, and outside a small flock grazes lazily, unconcerned with the world's affairs. The baby stirs, fusses, and the woman begins a lullaby, an old one with soft syllables and a rhythm that mimics walking. She sings of sheep that cross silver rivers of stars, that blink gently like blinking lambs, of a ziggurat made entirely of wool. 75, 76. You breathe in through your nose, and the scent shifts again. Now it's incense, sweet, a little bitter. Frankincense, probably. Someone nearby has started morning offerings. You imagine the smoke curling up in lazy spirals, carrying the leftover scraps of dreams with it. In Sumerian ritual, incense wasn't just fragrance. It was a medium, a translator. The gods, after all, didn't read clay, but they could smell. The right combination of herbs and resins could carry a prayer farther than any chanted word. You wonder what incense goes best with a prayer for sleep. 77. The breeze brushes over your arms. You shift slightly, pulling your tunic across your chest again. The cloth is cool now, and it smells like sun and salt and whatever soap was left over from the temple baths. The city is awake now fully, but you're not. Not entirely. You're half here, half in the tablet room, half in the reed hut, half asleep on the temple steps. That's a lot of halves. You don't mind? 78. The sheep return, not marching this time, not in single file. They drift, they wander. A few look up at you and blink as if to say, still here. Yes, still here. 79, 80. You let out a long breath. And somewhere not too far away, a priest yawns too. The city breathes. It's a slow, dusty inhale, sunlight rolling across rooftops, creeping into cracks, stretching over courtyards, and a sleepy exhale of doors, creaking open buckets, sloshing sandals, shuffling across packed dirt. Uruk is fully awake now, but you're still somewhere else, somewhere liminal. The rooftop has lost its chill warmed by the rising sun, but your body remains heavy. Not with exhaustion exactly, just that peaceful inertia that comes when your mind is caught between centuries. 81, 82. You hear the distant slosh of water being drawn from the Euphrates, followed by the muted grunt of someone lifting a full jar. The sounds blend with birdsong and soft temple chants, nothing loud, nothing rushed. Just a city performing its daily rituals without needing you yet. You stretch one leg out, straight one arm over your eyes. The light pulses red behind your closed eyelids. You're not asleep, but sleep adjacent. You can feel it padding softly around you like a careful animal. You think of the river. At night, the Euphrates changes, no longer the muddy, heaving artery of trade and labor. At night, it becomes a whispering sheet of black glass, a mirror, a myth. And if you stand close enough, the current begins to sound like speech. Not words exactly, but syllables half-formed, promises half-remembered. Sumerians believed water was sacred, not just because it gave life, but because it carried messages. The river connected cities, sure, but it also connected worlds. Between wakefulness and dreaming, between land and sky, between you and whatever it is that lets you finally sleep. Historians still argue whether certain canal rituals were symbolic baptisms or literal communication attempts with the divine. Some temple inscriptions refer to the talking waters. Others call it the liquid record. You like that one. The idea that the river listens, that it remembers. 83. You imagine standing by the bank, dipping your fingers into the cool current. You don't toss in a coin, those don't exist yet, but maybe a pebble, maybe a breath, maybe just your name. The water answers with silence, perfect full-bodied silence. You imagine sheep crossing the shallows calmly one after another, their wool gathering droplets like dew. The current tugs gently at their legs, but doesn't sweep them away. These sheep know the way. They've done this before, probably in 100 dreams. 84, 85. You're drifting now, pulled slowly downriver, not physically, just in thought. You lie still, but your mind floats gently over the water, past docks and baskets and clusters of lilies, past fishermen snoring in their boats, their lines drifting lazily out behind them. You remember the canal stories the old men tell during hot afternoons, how the river spirits braid the hair of sleeping children, how the fish sometimes speak Sumerian, but only to goats, how, if you whisper your problem to the reeds, the water will carry it to someone who can fix it, though that someone is never named. You smile faintly. 86. You inhale deeply, the scent of river mud and roasted barley and warm linen. 87. And again. 88. A new sound enters the mixed clay jars, knocking together. Someone's unloading pots near the bakery. You picture a young apprentice balancing a tray on her head, trying not to drop anything. She probably slept terribly. Probably worried all night about today's market crowd. You send her a silent wish, may your bread not burn. It feels like a kind thing to think. 89. A breeze dances across your cheek, the kind that skips across water before leaping over rooftops. It smells faintly of tamarind. 90. You don't need to open your eyes. Not yet. The numbers are leading you. You trust them now. They've gotten you this far. The sheep are resting in the shade now. Some are lying in puddles left by the irrigation canals. One chews slowly on a reed and blinks at you unimpressed. You think its name is Maybe. You chuckle softly, just air from your nose. 91. The river sounds again closer now, more like waves than current. That's fine. In dreams, rivers can do that. They can forget their rules. You reach out a hand palm open. 92. You feel nothing but imagine everything. The sun is rising steadily now, but you remain tucked in the shallows of consciousness adrift, but safe. You haven't moved in what feels like hours, and yet time keeps flowing past you, smooth and lazy like the Euphrates. 93, 94. Your rooftop has become a raft. You imagine the bricks creaking softly beneath you as the current carries you downstream, not in panic, not in haste, just floating. The water is warm against the sides, and somewhere behind you, the city of Uruk shrinks into the morning mist. You pass under a wooden bridge. On it, two temple scribes lean on the railing, arguing over something you can't hear. Their styluses are still tucked into their belts, and one of them gestures so dramatically he almost drops a tablet. You glide beneath them like a thought they'll never quite catch. And there beside the riverbank, a mathematician dozes on a rolled-up papyrus mat. His hand twitches occasionally, as if still solving something in his sleep. Sumerians were good at numbers, not just practical ones like counting sheep bricks and taxes, but abstract ones. They invented place value. They used base 60. They estimated square roots with a kind of dreamlike precision that still stuns modern scholars. You remember one tablet in particular, rectangular, thin, slightly chipped at one corner. It contained a math riddle involving a field of barley and a fence of sheep. The numbers danced across the surface like tiny gods. You copied it once, spent an hour just trying to make your handwriting curve the same way. You failed gloriously. 95, 96. You smile, not at the failure, but at the memory. You're far from that classroom now, far from chalk dust and sharp corrections and the dry bark of your teacher's voice. Here on the rooftop, or the river, or wherever you've drifted in this dream-sleep limbo, the numbers feel patient. They're not testing you, they're just keeping you company. 97. You remember being told that mathematics was the language of the gods, that Nana the moon god communicated in perfect ratios, that his beams fell in symmetrical patterns and the stars aligned with precision only divine scribes could decode. It seemed impossible at the time. But now you can almost feel it. The sheep are still with you scattered across the landscape of your imagination, some grazing near temples, some lying in the shade of palm trees. One stands on a small hill facing the rising sun as if giving thanks, or posing dramatically. You haven't decided yet. 98. A soft snore escapes your throat. You barely notice it. Your limbs are so heavy now, your muscles slack. Your breath steady your thoughts drifting into fog. But the numbers keep coming, polite and persistent. The 99. A priest once told you that the world was built in rhythms, not just time or seasons, but thoughts, that every soul had its own beat. And when you couldn't sleep, it wasn't your body resisting, it was your rhythm slipping out of sync. So you count. 100. And the rhythm returns. You're floating again, no rooftop, no city, no sheep even. Just a soft gray hum beneath everything, like the vibration of the earth itself, snoring gently. You ride it like a boat rides the tide. You wonder briefly what your name looks like in the dream realm. The Sumerians believed names had shape, not just sound. Some were like feathers, some like teeth. Some yours maybe were just slow spirals. A good name for sleep. 101. 102. You smile into the sunlight now, though your eyes remain closed. You've gone past the need to count, but still the numbers come. You are the sheep. You are the dreamer. You are the scribe writing yourself into a very long, very quiet scroll. 103. No rush, no pressure, just numbers. Just you. Just this. You stir just a little. A shift of your leg, a slight turn of your cheek against the reed mat. The sun is higher now, casting long, slanted shadows across the rooftop. You feel it kissing your skin in small patches, warmth through linen sunlight like syrup. But you don't open your eyes, not yet. You're still inside the softness, still within the sheep. 104, 105. It occurs to you now, half waking, half sleeping, that counting sheep was never just about sleep. In Sumer, sheep were everything. Not only food, not only trade, not only sacrifice, but symbol. You couldn't live without them, literally or spiritually. They were part of the calendar, the economy, the prophecy, and now your dreams. You remember standing in the temple yard, watching a priest lead a ceremonial ewe through a crowd. Its fleece was oiled and combed, its horns painted with gold powder. People lined up to touch it, as it passed not to pet, but to partake to receive the quiet holiness of a creature that bore no complaint. Later, you helped tally the other animals, those not so divine, the ordinary sheep meant for rations or wool or trade. You held the clay tablet in your lap and whispered the counts aloud, tapping with a stylus as each one passed. 106. That rhythm returns to you now, not in clay but in breath. 107. The heat of the day builds slowly, Not oppressive, yet just full. You can smell the faint sweetness of blooming date flowers carried from a garden somewhere below. You imagine bees already beginning their work. And beside that sweetness, always the smell of animals. Not foul, not to you. Familiar. A blend of lanolin and dust and something ancient. You once read a fragment of a lullaby in the temple library. Just a shard of clay almost illegible, saved in a cracked jar. The words were simple. Lie down, little wool breath. Close your eyes beneath the palms. The stars are counting with you. You thought it was for a child, but now you're not so sure. It may have been for someone like you, grown weary, cradled by the rooftop sky, needing rest. 108. The flock grows large in your mind. You see them stretched across the plains beyond the river, where reeds bow in the wind and little pools reflect the sky. You are their keeper, but you don't chase or command. You just watch. Just count. You wonder if the gods keep sheep. You wonder if they count them when they can't sleep. Or if they count us. 109. The bells of the temple ring at last, low and slow. A sound not meant to startle, but to realign. The city hears it and adjusts its posture. Bakers pause. Scribes glance up. Donkeys twitch their ears. Even the breeze seems to acknowledge the chime. You smile. Because you don't move. Not yet. You've become part of the stillness that follows sound. 110. Your thoughts begin to loop, folding gently in on themselves. Not confusion, not chaos, just softness. You begin thinking about sheep, and then you're thinking about stars, and then you're thinking about stars as sheep, and the ziggurat becomes a giant sheep pen, and the moon is just Nana counting quietly above it all. The sky is so bright now, you can see it even with your eyes closed. A golden haze pulses beneath your eyelids. You think of one more sheep small with a crooked ear and a lazy gait. The kind that always lags behind unbothered. The kind you secretly love the most. 111. It nudges past you, slow, steady, exactly on time. 112. You let it go. You let them all go. You let yourself go. The rooftop is quiet again, so quiet, it's as though the whole city has paused just for you. Even the breeze seems gentler now, barely brushing your cheek, like a hand that doesn't want to wake you, but just wants to say, I'm here. 113, 114. You remain still curled slightly on your side, one arm under your head, the other resting across your stomach. Your tunic has creased under your hip, but you don't bother to fix it. You're far beyond discomfort. You're grazing the outer fields of dreaming, now wandering deeper hooves, softly pressing into your mind. A slow bleat rises in the distance, so faint it might be imagined. You don't care. Real or not, it comforts you. You drift toward a memory, or is it a dream? In it you are a merchant traveling with a caravan across long stretches of cracked riverbed. You're tired. Your donkey is tired. Even the wind sounds bored. And so, you begin to count your cargo. Not because you've forgotten, but because it gives your mind something to do besides worry. 2 jars of dates, 1 bundle of wool, 4 sheep, 5 sheep. And as you walk, the rhythm settles in. Each hoof fall becomes a syllable. Each creak of leather becomes punctuation. Before long, you've counted 100, then 200, then lost count entirely. It doesn't matter. The counting has served its purpose. It has removed you from the urgency of the road. 115. You're back on the rooftop now. Or maybe you never left. Your mouth is dry, but pleasantly so. You taste the night's still lingering ashes, barley, maybe a bit of clay dust that's settled on your lip. You don't wipe it away. It feels honest. You think of the traders who passed through Uruk, bringing wool obsidian wine salt. Some from far-off places like Dilmun or Susa. You once overheard a tired merchant confess to a temple priest that he couldn't sleep unless he ran his fingers through sheep fleece, just a few strands tucked in a pouch at his side, like a holy relic. You understand that now. Sumerians were tactile people. They believed in texture. Clay linen reeds, wool ash. Even dreams had texture. According to some priests, some were soft like honey. Others rough like river stone. Your dream tonight feels like a wool blanket left out in the sun. Scratchy in parts, but warm. Historians still argue about how literal dream interpretation was in ancient Mesopotamia. Some tablets suggest dreams were sorted by omen type, good, bad, unclear. Others read like personal journals full of symbols and mysteries. A bird flying backwards, a man made of smoke, a city drowned in milk. You once copied one that simply said, I dreamed of a sheep with 7 legs walking through the temple. It did not speak, I awoke and felt calm. You love that one. 116. You imagine the seven-legged sheep now. It walks slowly, not awkwardly, just deliberately. It passes your rooftop, glances at you with wise eyes, and continues on, leaving no tracks behind. It is not strange. It simply is. 117. The bells chime again. This time from a different part of the city. A smaller shrine. A second call to rise. But you still don't move. In your mind, the flock is larger than ever. Not in number, but in presence. They surround you, not crowded, just near. Grazing calmly, a living perimeter of peace. Some lie down. Some chew slowly. One nuzzles your leg. They are so quiet. 118. You think again of Nana the moon god. His gentle curve, his silver robes, his calm hand raised in greeting. You've never seen him in a dream, not clearly. But sometimes, when the counting goes smooth and the air hums just right, you feel like you're brushing the hem of his robe. Maybe he's counting too. 119. You blink slowly. Light seeps through your eyelashes like morning through a reed wall. You think you might get up soon, but not yet. One more number. 120. And still, no rush. You finally open your eyes, not out of obligation, not because someone called you, but because the sun has tipped just high enough to glow straight across your rooftop mat. The light touches your face like a warm hand, soft and persuasive. You blink slowly once, twice, then settle again, not to rise, but just to look. The city below is bathed in brightness now. Roofs shimmer faintly with sun-baked dust. Laundry lines sway between buildings. Pigeons bob between ledges. Uruk is alive, but not hurried, not yet. It's a city that stretches into its day like you stretch into waking. 121, 122. You're not counting sheep anymore, not directly. Now you're counting time breaths the gentle way the world refuses to rush you. And somewhere between these numbers, you remember something odd, a tablet you once read, tucked deep inside the temple's dream archive. It wasn't meant to be found easily small, cracked, its inscription cramped and crooked, like it had been written in haste or half-sleep. You cleaned it gently with a damp cloth and read it aloud to yourself, while the scribal master napped. It said, "The dream of the scribe, he counted 100 sheep, and then the sheep began to count him. He did not run. He stood very still. He understood their language. You didn't know what to make of it at the time. But now it makes perfect sense." 123. You picture the scene yourself standing in the middle of a great green field, while dozens of sleepy-eyed sheep sit in semicircles around you, counting softly under their breath. You don't speak, you just nod politely as they tally your fingers, your thoughts, your dreams. It's not frightening, it's mathematical, fair. 124. Beside your cot, still unused, rests your stylus and a half-written tablet. You started it yesterday before sleep escaped you. It was supposed to be a record of rations for a festival. Goats, figs, jars of beer. You remember pausing to write 3 sheep for ceremonial washing, then wondering what that looked like. Do they bathe the sheep like honored guests? Do the sheep know it's an occasion? 125. You never finished the tablet. You chose the rooftop instead. You chose counting. Now, as you lie back down, arm across your forehead, you imagine someone discovering your half-written record centuries from now. Some young apprentice brushing away dust, squinting at the faint script, wondering why it stops just as it was getting interesting. You hope they understand you were busy sleeping. Or trying to. 126. A light breeze passes again. Always the breeze. You think Uruk is made of it? Bricks and reeds and baked clay, yes, but also breath. Wind between walls. Wind whispering through date palms. Wind lifting your sleep-heavy limbs into dreaming. You stretch your toes and let them fall again. 127. And there's a whisper of memory. Not yours. Older. You are now someone else. A woman, a potter's wife, lying on her own rooftop in the city of Lagash. Her fingers stained with red dye. Her hair wrapped in cloth. She counts not sheep, but customers. Pots sold, bread traded, names remembered. She too cannot sleep. So she counts. Her husband breathes beside her. The child stirs in a basket. A stray cat curls on the stair. And somewhere in her mind, the sheep begin to walk. 128. You see her. You are her just for a moment. Then you are yourself again. And then you are neither, just a flicker adrift. That's what dreaming does in Sumer. It dissolves the boundaries, past and present, self and other, waking and sleep. Historians still debate whether ancient dreams were personal like ours or communal, if people believed their dreams belonged to the city, the temple, the gods. Many tablets say the dream of the king is the dream of the land, but what of the potter's wife, the shepherd boy? The apprentice who never finished his math? They dream too, just like you. 129. The sheep are circling back again. The original ones, familiar and kind. One limps, one hums, one winks. You whisper your thanks. 130. And somewhere in the distance, a goat begins to count too. You don't remember falling asleep, but something has changed. The rooftop beneath you is still warm. The wind's still gentle, but your body feels heavier now. Anchored. There's a looseness in your limbs, a slackness in your jaw. Your breath is slow and easy, like the sheep you've lain down at last. 131. 132. And now the dreams are clearer. Less like fog, more like faint etchings on a clay tablet, curved lines, soft symbols. You are still in Sumer, but the edges have blurred. Time has folded. You walk beside canals that haven't been dug yet. You pass buildings that no longer stand. People greet you in accents you've never heard, but you understand every word. You turn a corner, and there's a market stall just like any other. But instead of figs or fish or incense, the merchant is selling dreams, neatly stacked like baskets. He smiles and offers you one wrapped in linen. You ask the price. He shrugs and says, "Just remember it." You nod and take it. 133. The dream smells like river clay and warm wool. Inside, you find yourself lying on another rooftop, much like your own. There's a reed mat, a water jar, a lazy cat. You realize with a smile, it's your own rooftop reflected back at you by the dream. You're dreaming of dreaming. You're nesting in it now, layer by layer, like a sheep curling in its fleece. 134. You roll gently onto your back and look up, not at the sun, but at a ceiling of stars. Somehow, day has turned to night again. But it makes sense here. The sheep move in slow loops their wool, catching light that has no source. You hear a voice low and rhythmic. It's not language, not exactly, more like chanting numbers. Not yours. The sheep are counting again. 135, 136. You wonder what they are counting toward. A celestial inventory, a wool-based prophecy, or maybe just the same thing you were seeking all along, rest, rhythm, repetition. You remember that in temple rituals, dreams weren't just entertainment. They were diagnostics, messages, warnings, sometimes blessings. A priest would sit beside the dreamer and interpret the symbols aloud, translating the strange into the sacred. You wonder who would interpret yours. 137. A scribe, probably. Or maybe the old baker with the crooked toe who claims he once dreamed of a bread oven that swallowed a whole goat and told him to move to Nippur. He never moved, but his bread is still the best in Uruk. You drift again. Now you're in a chamber beneath the temple, cool, quiet, lined with tablets. A priest guides you to a low bench. You sit. He holds out a stylus. You take it and he says, "Write your dreams before they forget you." You laugh, but you write anyway. First a field of sheep that count themselves, then a cloud that smells like barley, then a goat that speaks in numbers. 138. You scratch the characters gently into clay. The tablet is warm in your hands. You want to keep it to hold it forever, but the priest smiles and places it on a shelf among thousands of others. Your dream joins the archive. Your sleep becomes record. Historians still debate the purpose of dream archives. Some say they were for medical purposes, ways to track mental unrest or divine warnings. Others say they were simply expressions of poetry, emotional ledgers. Either way, the practice faded with time. Most dream tablets have crumbled. The ones that remain are cracked, cryptic, half erased by centuries of breath. You think about that as you return to the rooftop. The real one, or the first one. Or maybe one that's a little bit of both. 139. You nestle deeper into the mat. You hear a soft tapping a stylus on clay no. Just your heartbeat now. Slow, predictable, steady. 140. You don't know how many sheep are left. And you don't care. They'll keep walking. And you'll keep resting. The dream has thinned again, less a place now, more a texture, more a warmth. You lie on your rooftop wrapped in it. Not a blanket exactly, but something heavier than air and softer than linen. Maybe it's the sky itself. Maybe it's just the mind finally unclenching after a night of being too full. 141, 142. You don't count on purpose anymore. The numbers just arrive like breath, like the breeze. like the soft sound of a goat knocking over a bowl down in the courtyard below, followed by someone muttering half-heartedly and then laughing. The world is waking. You are not. You shift your body slightly, adjusting your weight. One foot pokes out from under the mat, cool against the warming bricks. A fly lands on your arm and decides you are in fact not worth bothering. You take that as a compliment. You drift to thoughts of food, not hunger, just memory. The kinds of things temple kitchens prepare to coax the body gently towards sleep. Goat's milk warm and slightly spiced with crushed cardamom seeds. Dried dates soaked in honey water. Barley cakes with just a touch of salt meant to remind the tongue of waking even as the rest of you drifts away. 143. You remember once sneaking into the outer kitchen long after hours when the head priest had gone to bed. The fire was still warm, the bread still soft. You ate in silence beside a scribe friend, both of you pretending not to see the other. She whispered, "We're going to dream of baker gods tonight." You did. 144. That dream returns now unbidden, but welcome. A temple made of dough, walls of risen bread, stairs shaped like coiled pretzels, and in the center, a soft-eyed god with flour on his nose and a ladle in one hand. He asked you if you wanted to rest. You said yes. He told you to count to 60 and start over. You did. You still are. 145. You imagine him again, that baker god. He leans against a flour sack, nodding at you from some cloud of scent and heat. He doesn't speak this time. He doesn't have to. His presence is like molasses, slow, golden, and patient. Sumerians didn't have gods of sleep, not specifically, but they had gods of dreams of moonlight, of barley, of stillness. Maybe that's all the same thing. Maybe that's what your baker god is, a made-up saint of quiet. Historians still debate how personal Mesopotamian religion could be. Were dreams private, intimate encounters with the divine, or communal reflections shaped by festivals and formal prayers? Most surviving texts speak of kings and omens, but the gaps suggest that ordinary people dreamed too, just not loudly enough to be archived. 146. You scratch your stomach absently, eyes still closed. You feel the edge of a mosquito bite, but don't care enough to do anything about it. The comfort outweighs the itch. 147. A dog barks below, not alarmed, just stating its existence. You accept its report and return to stillness. The rooftop holds you like a friend would, firm but flexible, dusty but familiar. Your breath echoes slightly in your ears, always a strange feeling, as if the body is suddenly louder than the world. 148. You picture the sheep again, not walking now, just resting. They lie in a ring around you, heads down, legs tucked under, blinking slowly. No fences, no counting, just presence. You are both the herder and the herd, the guardian and the one being guarded. 149. The baker god returns now carrying a steaming clay bowl of milk. He sets it down beside your sleeping mat and disappears into the golden haze of morning. You don't need the milk, you just need to know it's there. 150. The number lands like a sigh. Half a new cycle, half a lullaby, half a promise kept. You don't move, you don't speak, you simply exist. Perfectly counted, perfectly still. You're not entirely sure when the sheep stopped coming. Not because they vanished, but because you no longer need to see them. Their presence is a hum, now folded into the warm edges of your thoughts. You've passed the point of conscious tallying. You've entered the part of the night or morning, or whatever hour this is, where even the need to track has softened and frayed. Still, the numbers arrive more by courtesy than necessity. 151, 152. You're grateful for their patience. Not every Sumerian had the luxury of sleep. You remember overhearing a priest, once a man, normally too dignified for small talk, grumbling that his dreams had been disrupted for 3 straight nights. He blamed the stars, or maybe his neighbor's rooster. He wasn't sure. In the end, he consulted a dream interpreter who offered no advice, just a song. A lullaby written centuries earlier by a priest who, legend says, gave up numbers entirely one night in favor of melody. The man had been a mathematician once celebrated for computing advanced ratios between brick loads and oxen power. But when the numbers began to slip from his dreams, turning into strange symbols and half-rhymed verses, he didn't resist. He followed them. He never wrote equations again. He composed lullabies instead. 153. You imagine him now leaning against a temple wall, singing softly to himself while the stars realign above him. His voice not beautiful, but rhythmic, sleepy. intentional. His lullabies weren't famous. They weren't even particularly clever, but they were reliable. He always began each one with the same phrase, "Sleep counts you now." 154. That phrase sticks with you. It loops in your thoughts as you drift further deeper. Sleep counts you now? You aren't the counter anymore. You're the counted. One sheep in a vast field of dreamers, all tucked into their own reed mats, all drifting in and out of sleep while the universe keeps track. You breathe in, the air is thick with sun-warmed dust. Somewhere someone's preparing a morning fire. You can smell the faint tang of burning palm fronds, but it doesn't draw you up, it grounds you. 155. You shift again, not to rise, just to rearrange yourself into a deeper kind of stillness. Your spine settles, your feet uncurl, your fingers go slack. 156. There's a rhythm to this too, not just the counting, the letting go. Sumerians believed sleep could be layered. Shallow sleep was for recovery. Deep sleep was where the gods lived. But there was also a third kind, threshold sleep, the space between awareness and surrender, the moment just before you are truly asleep where messages could be heard most clearly. You think this must be that place. 157. The sheep are not visible anymore, but you feel them close. They breathe with you. You're synchronized. 158. You wonder abstractly if anyone is counting you now. Not the gods, not the priest, but someone like yourself, far away in another rooftop bed, lying still and whispering numbers into the blue-gray morning. Perhaps you're sheep number 158 to them. It's oddly comforting. 159. There's a soft clink from nearby, your water jar expanding slightly in the warmth. It startles a pigeon, which flaps upward with a single annoyed burst of wings. You barely react. You're floating in the numbers now, more rhythm than record. You're no longer adding, you're just noticing. 160. And now the song begins. Not out loud, not from the temple, from somewhere inside. The lullaby of the lost mathematician, the rhythm of counted sheep, the breath of a city that dreams while standing. You don't know all the words. You don't need to. Sleep counts you now. The light has changed again. You feel it before you see it. The heat is more direct now, less like a whisper, more like a quiet insistence pressing against your skin. A signal that morning is no longer arriving, it's arrived. The rooftop bricks have gone from warm to hot in places. Somewhere nearby, a child yells joyfully. A goat disagrees loudly, but you don't move. 161, 162. You've crossed into the part of sleep where even discomfort can be woven into calm. Your body aches in the gentle way it does when it's finally released its grip. Muscles slacken, joints give in. You've floated so far into stillness that noise is no longer interruption, it's texture. You think of the sheep again, not yours this time, the real ones. The ones in the temple pens. And the time they escaped. It was 2 summers ago. A record heat wave had baked the mud brick enclosures until the latches warped. A bored apprentice, your cousin forgot to check the reed gate. You remember the scene vividly. 20 sheep, dusty and confused, charging down the main avenue like fluffy rebels. One even leapt over a basket vendor's stall, knocking over 3 jars of fermented yogurt. The priest of Nana was so flustered, he tripped on his own ceremonial robe trying to chase them. You, of course, had been the one tasked with counting them later. One by one, covered in dust, smelling of street and fear and triumph. 163. You were supposed to write a formal report about the incident. You never did. Instead, you carved a tablet titled "The Flight of the Blessed Sheep," written in the style of a military epic. It ended with the phrase, "And thus the sheep returned, not conquered, but merely tired." Your teacher didn't laugh out loud, but you caught him smirking. 164. You remember that day not because it was chaotic, but because it was real. The sheep, for all their mystery and myth and symbol, were also just sheep. They got scared. They got lost. They caused mayhem. And you loved them for it. And now here in your half-sleep you think about that. The way life and dreaming blur in Uruk. The way things sacred and absurd can coexist, no separation, no judgment. A sheep can be both an offering and a joke. A rooftop can be both a bed and a boat. A number can be both a tally and a lullaby. 165. You let that thought settle into you warm and slow. The same way the sheep finally settled, curled into a reluctant heap outside the scribe school, their escape over. Their adventure, like yours, ending in stillness. You are that heap now, curled, quiet, counting without effort. 166. A faint breeze carries the smell of incense again this time, myrrh, not frankincense. It's coming from the small household shrine across the alley. You've seen the woman who tends it. She lights her offering every morning with the same rhythm, the same match, the same soft hum. Today the smoke drifts upward, brushes your cheek, and vanishes. You imagine the gods sniffing it like tea. 167. In this stillness, your thoughts start to loop again. You remember sheep, then ziggurats, then barley cakes, then stars, then sheep again. Not in a line anymore, in a circle now, lying in a ring around you like silent guards. You think of a phrase you once read etched into the rim of a ceremonial bowl. To count is to care, to sleep is to trust. You didn't understand it at the time. You do now. 168. The sun presses against your face. You squint your eyes shut tighter and roll to your other side. The bricks beneath you are hot now, but it's not unpleasant. It feels earned, like a body being baked slowly back into clay. 169. A temple drummer begins his warm-up routine somewhere near the main plaza. You recognize the beat, pay dum, pay, pause, pay dum. It's the one they use before feast announcements, but you're not going to any feast today. You're still counting, 170, and the sheep haven't moved. They're with you, every last one resting. Like you, the rooftop has become a kind of sanctuary. The day is rising around you, bustling, shouting, trading, praying, but here in this pocket of shadow and stillness, time has slowed. You lie in a tangle of linen and sleep in heat, one hand tucked under your cheek, the other resting lazily on your chest. 171, 172. The sheep are quieter now if they're still moving at all. You don't picture them anymore. You feel them, a soft, wool-lined presence at the edge of your awareness. You've counted them into stillness, into trust. And now they keep watch like sentries made of breath and fleece. You've been drifting so long that you've forgotten where the counting ends, or if it needs to. And now, without warning, an image enters your mind. A god, not one of the great ones, not Nana or Utu or Inanna, but a small, strange deity of night watch fires and forgotten corners. He's dressed like a shepherd, but his staff glows faintly. His feet leave no prints on the clay. You don't know his name, and that's fine. In Sumer, many gods were local minor whispered more than worshipped. This one stands just outside your dream, watching, not saying a word. 173. You nod to him. He nods back. This is the part of sleep when memory and myth blur, when gods and livestock and temple scribes share the same thin air. You remember a story told by an old grain weigher once over lentil stew and cheap wine. He said that in the deepest hours of the night, the gods borrow human eyes and walk through their cities unnoticed, not to spy, not to punish, but to remember what stillness feels like. Historians still argue whether this belief was symbolic or literal, but the line between symbol and fact in ancient Sumer was always soft, porous. You let that thought drift. 174. The dream shifts. Now you're no longer on the rooftop, or even in Uruk. You're out on the plains far from the city walls, where the stars are so sharp they feel like they could cut your breath in half. The fields are empty save for you, and a single sheep. It stands facing east, waiting. You step beside it, and it doesn't flinch. It begins to walk, and you follow. 175. The grass brushes your ankles. The stars blink slowly above. A distant temple tower glows on the horizon like a lighthouse made of dust. But you don't head for it. You just walk. Neither of you speak. There's no need. This sheep is not symbolic. It's not an offering. It's not even part of your count. It's a guide. It leads you to a circle of stones, simple flat laid out in the shape of a spiral. In the center, a fire flickering without fuel. Around the fire sit figures, not people, not gods. Shapes made of wool and ash and breath. Guardians of dreams, perhaps, or just old thoughts that never left. They make space for you. You sit. You say nothing. 176. The fire hums, not crackles. Its light is pale gold like sunlight, seen through eyelids. The figures nod to you. One hands you a small clay token. It's warm, smooth. It bears a symbol you don't recognize. You tuck it into your tunic. You feel lighter. You lean back. And once again, you are on your rooftop, back where you began. 177. A pigeon lands nearby, preening its feathers and cooing with mild annoyance at the sun. You hear the temple drummer's rhythm change faster now, calling the city fully into the day. But here, your mat remains a boat, a field, a cradle. You sigh and roll onto your back. 178. The sheep are no longer counting you. Now they're simply present. So are you. You've lost track of time intentionally beautifully. The rooftop is no longer a place defined by bricks and corners. It's become something much larger. A platform floating on sleep. A stage where the past leans in gently and whispers across the centuries. You lie perfectly still, body-warm bones soft. You feel like a figure carved into a clay tablet, curved purposeful, but also free to drift beyond the lines. 179, 180. You inhale slowly. And then something rare. The sound of awe. It arrives like a hush, a drop in wind, a subtle pause in the rhythm of the market, the chatter of courtyards, the scrape of sandals. The animals quiet. The city holds its breath. Then a murmur spreads across the rooftops. You sit up drowsy and slow and follow the gaze of every eye in Uruk. To the sky. There, veiled in the morning blue, floats a great copper disk. Dimmed by the sun, but unmistakable a full lunar eclipse. The moon sacred to Nana has turned to shadow. You are suddenly very awake, but not with fear, with wonder. Even in Sumer, where omens are as common as bread and temple bells, a full lunar eclipse is rare. A moment of pause, a sky riddle, an announcement from the gods that no one quite understands but everyone feels. 181. You rise to your knees, eyes on the darkened moon. It hovers above the ziggurat, casting no light. The ostrich eggs atop the minarets no longer glow. Everything is still. A child down the alley begins to cry, not from fear, just confusion. A priest begins a slow chant. Others join. Not loud, not panicked, just rhythmic, sleepy, respectful. You remain still, hands resting on your thighs. The sheep appear again this time, not walking, not resting. Just looking up like you, watching their sky change color. 182. In the old myths, an eclipse was sometimes caused by Ereshkigal, queen of the underworld, reaching for the heavens. Other times it was a divine debt being collected, or a moment when the gods simply turned their faces away. But the story you like best is the quiet one, the one where Nana the moon god simply grows tired. He sleeps, he folds himself into shadow, and lets the sky keep turning without him. 183. You wonder if he counts sheep too, or maybe stars. You lie back down, the bricks warm against your shoulder blades, your eyes still on the fading moon. It has begun to brighten again, just a sliver of silver at the edge, a return, a blink, a new breath. You feel no fear, the eclipse has passed, but something about it has clicked something loose in your mind. A key turned, a final note played. 184. You sigh and stretch once more, not to rise, but to settle even deeper. The sheep gather close again, their wool brushing your skin. They lie with you, surrounding you like a living wall, not guarding, not counting, just being. You close your eyes. You feel weightless. 185. And finally your thoughts slow. No lists, no worries, no reruns of the day. Just the breeze. Just the numbers. Just the soft hush of hooves in the dust. 186. You don't need to finish the count, but you do. Because it's yours. Because it's old. Because it works. 187. The eclipse is gone now, but sleep is here. Real, full, certain. And this time, you follow. This time when your eyes close, they stay closed. There's no lingering tension in your neck, no twitch in your fingers, no to-do list trailing behind your eyelids. Just the warm pressure of breath and brick. Just the weight of your own body melting into the rooftop as if you've become part of the clay. 188, 189. You don't think the numbers now. They happen to you. They arrive like small, steady waves brushing gently across the surface of your thoughts. You are the shoreline. You are the field. You are the sleeper and the dream. The sheep are still here, fewer now, or maybe just less vivid. The forms that once stepped neatly past your imagination now linger in soft silhouettes. You don't count them anymore. You remember them, like friends who came to visit and stayed just long enough. 190. The rooftop is no longer just a rooftop. It's a temple, a field, a scroll, a lullaby. You're surrounded by the symbols of sleep, cool air, fading incense, the distant rustle of palm fronds, and the slow clink of water in a jar as the heat of day warms the clay. All of it holds you in place, not to trap you, but to reassure you. You are exactly where you need to be. And then another image. You're back at the temple library, but not as yourself. You're older now, wrinkled, calm. You hold a stylus with steady hands. You sit beside a child, perhaps your own apprentice, and show them the glyph for dream. It is made of two symbols, sleep and message. Together they mean that which comes to those who listen. 191. You tap the tablet, gently guiding the apprentice's hand. They begin to carve. The clay is damp. The morning is young. The sheep are still sleeping in the pens nearby. You glance out the window. The sky is pink with sunrise, and the world is quiet. 192. The apprentice asks you if the dreams ever stop coming. You smile. No, but sometimes they take their time. 193. The rooftop presses against your back, your shoulders, your knees. You welcome the weight. It tells you are here. Not in the past, not in the myth, but here, alive, drifting, safe. 194. The sheep murmur one last time, just a soft rustle, a reminder. Then they lie, still curling into the folds of your mind, where they will wait quietly until next time. 195. Your breath slows again, deeper now, final. The city continues. Doors open, feet shuffle, water splashes into basins. But all of that is far away. You are not part of the day yet. You are still in the count. 196. A cloud passes over the sun. The wind lifts a corner of your tunic. A pigeon lands beside your mat and pecks once at a breadcrumb. But you do not stir. You are already fading beneath the surface of thought. 197. You think just 3 more, but you don't say them aloud. You barely even think them. 198. 199. And finally, 200. Then nothing. Just sleep. Let it all go now. Let the rooftops fade. Let the temple walls melt into a soft wash of color behind your eyelids. Let the sheep once counted so patiently drift, like clouds into the far hills of your dreaming mind. You've followed them long enough. You've done your part. Now, let them graze without you. Your limbs are weightless. Your breath is gentle. The bricks beneath you hold no resistance. You are not a body anymore, not entirely. You're a thought gliding along the edge of stillness. Let the sounds of Uruk, those morning voices, the bleeding in distant pens, the splash of cistern water, become a lullaby. No need to chase them, no need to name them, just let them pass through. If a thought returns, greet it like an old friend and let it keep walking. You are in a place beyond story now, beyond sheep, beyond counting, beyond history. Just the rhythm remains. Just the soft reassurance that somewhere in a city older than time, someone like you once lay on a rooftop, dreaming of sleep and finding it number by number. You've walked with them now. You've traced their path. You've breathed their air. And now it's time to rest. There's nothing more to do. No more sheep to count. No more stories to follow. Only this moment, this stillness, this final breath before the dreams arrive. So rest now. Sleep counts you, and the story ends.